Hey guys, this is video 3.3. We're going to talk about this thing called gram formula mass / molecular mass / molar mass, okay? This is all the same thing, okay? So all these terms mean the same thing. They are synonymous. Most will think of it as molar mass, okay? But when the Regents comes around, we start seeing those practice questions. A lot of times they may say formula mass or gram formula mass. It means the same thing. Don't forget that and don't get confused by it. Okay, it just means, hey, what's the mass of the compound? All right, let that be your kind of your guide within it is mass. So all this is this is the sum of all the masses of every element in the compound, and we're talking about 1 mole of the compound. Okay, hence molar mass piece. So if we just take a look at the molar mass of sodium chloride, NaCl. So the best way is to be organized. The best way to do this and attack these problems is to make sure you are organized. So figure out first the number of atoms of each element. Okay, so sodium in this case, do we see a subscript? No, therefore it's assumed to be 1. Cl, same thing, we have 1 of those. Then what we're going to do is multiply the number of atoms by the molar mass of the element. Okay. So using your periodic table, we can look it up. So sodium would be 22.98977, and like I said in the last video, guys, rounding to 2 decimal places is totally fine. For the sake of the video, I'm just kind of showing you where I get that number, but get in the habit of rounding to 2 decimal places. All right, so when we do that math, that's pretty easy. 22.98977 would be the mass that sodium brings to the element. Now we got to figure out chlorine as well. So 35.453, multiply that by 1, pretty easy math. Okay, so this is the total mass that sodium brought to the table, or brought to the compound. This is the total mass that chlorine did. In this case, it was pretty easy because they were each just 1 atom, but we'll see in the next example or two what it would be like if there's more than 1. So then the last step, right, it said the sum, so we're just going to add these up. When we add them up, we would get 58.443, and our unit is going to be grams per mole. Okay, this is the number of grams in 1 mole of the compound. Okay, so that's the unit that you will often see, so make sure you are in the habit of using that for your unit. All right, another example. How is this one a little bit different? What do you notice about this compound versus the first one? This one has got parentheses. Okay, so yes, there's 3 elements as well, but there's parentheses. So let's see how we go about incorporating those. First thing, identify and write down all the different elements that you have in the compound. All right, calcium, do you see a subscript? No, so therefore it's 1. Nitrogen, now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, guys. What this is showing, and we'll talk more about it when we get into naming compounds and writing formulas, but basically this is written like this. We have Ca, NO3, and NO3. So there's 2 of these NO3 pieces. Okay, so the easy way for us to think about what do we do is the subscript on the outside of a parentheses distributes into all the other subscripts. So we really have 2 nitrogens, and it's easier to see it when we draw like a little picture as to kind of how these are bonded together. So we have 2 nitrogens and how many oxygens? 3 and 3 would be 6. All right, so now once we figured out how many atoms we have, let's multiply by their masses. So on the periodic table, we see that calcium is 40.08, nitrogen is 28.0, I'm sorry, nope, I was looking at the wrong one, 14.01. Notice I have just round to 2 decimal places. Okay, and oxygen is just going to be 16.00. A lot of these you will start to memorize the more that you use them. So calcium, the total mass that it brings is 40.08. The total mass that nitrogen brings is that 28.02 that I alluded to a few seconds ago. And then oxygen would be 96.00. So when we add them all up at the end, we would get a total mass of 164.1. So with units, 164.10 grams per mole. All right? So not too much more difficult than a single element. It's just we got to keep track of all the different pieces within it. So I'd encourage you guys to pause the video, try calculating the mass of sodium phosphate on your own. So same process. I'm going to kind of just distinguish this. I know I didn't leave you guys a lot of room, and I apologize for that. So I've got 3 sodium atoms. I've got 1 phosphorus atom. And I've got 4 oxygens. Notice there's no parenthesis, or excuse me, no subscript on the outside of a parenthesis. So I'm not distributing like I did in the last problem. Sodium is going to be 3 times 22.99. When I do that math, it would give me 68.97. Phosphorus has a molar mass of 30.97. That's easy math. And oxygen is that 16, which would then equate to 64. Last step, add them all up. 163.94 grams per mole would be my answer. If you got that, awesome. If you didn't, ask questions. So now the next step that we can then use is similar to what we've already done with elements. We can now use molar mass, guys, as a conversion factor. Okay, so we can go from grams to moles or vice versa using molar mass as well of a compound. All right, so here we go. Just like we did in the last video, we start with our given 127 grams of BaCl2, which is barium chloride. We're trying to get to moles. So grams would go on the bottom. Notice I'm putting my entire unit in each box, which is my substance. Grams will cancel out. So 1 mole. Now we would have to calculate the molar mass of barium chloride. I've already done that for you to make this go a little bit quicker. When you look at all of them individually, you would add them up and you would get 208.23 grams per 1 mole. So now we can just do our math. All right, that's dividing. So we would get 0.610 moles of BaCl2 if we started with 127 grams. And again, how I figured out where to round my final answer, 3 sig figs, because my original number had 3 sig figs. So what you guys are going to do now, this is the first half of the unit. So your first quiz dealing with like mole math is everything in these first 3 videos. So practice calculating molar mass here in practice 3. All right. Number 7 is a challenge problem. All right, it's a prize question as well. If you get that correct when you check your answer and you can show me the work for it, I'll give you a prize. Practice 4 is using that molar mass component now as conversion factors, so like that example that we just did. Some of these compounds, guys, are the same as practice 3, so that'll save you a little bit of time. And then practice 5, okay? This is the one that is like your quiz, okay? So this would be your quiz practice. All right, quiz practice, where it's all mixed together, all right, all the different types. So this is where you want to really spend a lot of time and do a lot of extra practice, get questions answered, because this is what your quiz will be like. Until next time, I'll see you later.